Hi, my name is Chef Steve. I'm from the South Shore of Boston, Massachusetts. I've been a professional chef for 45 years, but don't let that intimidate you. What we're about to do here today with our 3 recipes, it's going to be simple, easy for you to replicate at home. All right, we're going to start our meal today with a fresh rocket salad, which is baby arugula. I first came across this when my wife and I were on vacation in Italy. We went into this local restaurant and it was absolutely the most amazing, best salad we ever had. It tasted just like it had just been picked between the tomatoes and the fresh arugula coming out of the garden. Anyways, it's a real easy. Take yourself a nice handful of the baby arugula, put it in a bowl large enough to mix. We're going to dress that with a little bit of olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, fresh squeezed lemon juice. I'm using my hand here just to strain the seeds from going into it. And then we're going to season that with some kosher sea salt. A little sprinkle of that on there. Grate some Grana Padano Parmesan cheese. As such, you can adjust the amounts of any of these depending on your tasting and what you feel that you like to use. And transfer that over to your serving dish. Nice big mound in the center. That seems about right. I'm going to give my hands a little rinse here since they just went up into my mouth. We're going to augment the salad with some cherry grape tomatoes. I like to cut them in half. I think it's a little more just easy to disperse through the salad. Easy to pick up with your fork so they don't kind of pop out like a grape. Just arrange those around the sides. And we're going to finish that with some fresh mozzarella. Nice slices, as thick or as thin as you want them. I usually go about 1/4 inch or so. Arrange them how you would like to see them on your salad. It doesn't matter, there's really no rules to follow doing something like this. Right across the top. And we're going to finish that with a little more of the Grana Padano, but we're going to use more of a shaved version over the top of that too. So you get a nice mix of a tart and tangy cheese and a nice soft fresh mozzarella. Just using a potato peeler here to do that. Gives you some nice thin strips of cheese. Garnish with a lemon. Drizzle with a little bit of balsamic glaze, which you can get at your local grocer. And that's it. Easy, simple. 5 minutes and you're done. Quick, nice and light for the summertime. Got a little bit of zing to it. The flavors of the cheese going with the lemon and the olive oil is kind of what brings it all together. Nice al fresco salad. All right, we're back again. We're going to go ahead and skip right over to the creme brulee burnt French toast bread pudding. It's going to be 3 simple phases to do it. We're going to start out by doing the creme brulee batter, which is taking 4 ounces of egg yolks and creaming that together with 3 tablespoons of granulated sugar. So we're going to whisk that together till it starts to get a little pale in color. While we're doing that, we're heating the cream up to about 160 degrees. Eggs will start to cook at over 158. So we bring that cream up to 160, then we're going to temper this mixture into the egg yolks, which will start to thicken it and cook it a little bit, but not cook it so much as to scramble the eggs, and that's what we call tempering. So we're going to continue with that. We're going to add 1 tablespoon of pure vanilla extract. I usually like to use a vanilla bean while I'm heating up the cream, but I wasn't any available, so we're going to take a pass on that. It just adds a little bit of some dark specks to it and intensifies the flavor just a little bit more on the vanilla end of it. Bringing our cream up to temp. It's a heavy cream, whipping cream. We want it to go up to about like I said, about 158 is where eggs actually start to cook. We take it to 160. By the time we temper it into the egg mixture, it will cool down enough so that it does not scramble the eggs as we are whisking them together. We probably got about another 30 seconds on the cream. and then we can proceed on. In the meantime, we're going to take, I like to use a challah bread, or I prefer to use brioche. That wasn't available as well, so we're going to go ahead and use a challah bread, which is a butter and egg enriched bread. We're going to cut that into some about 1-inch thick slices. We'll use about 4 slices per bread pudding dish. I got the nice thick slices there. We'll set that off to the side. Check our temperature on the cream. You know, I've been doing this for an awful long time, and I got my start in homestyle cooking with my great aunt way back when I was probably 10, 12 years old. We used to go to her house for when we used to have Sunday dinners, families would all get together, and you know, I would go into her kitchen, and she had a big old house with a huge kitchen and pantry. I just started watching her do that and just kind of fell into it, never with the intention of becoming a chef. It just happened to work out that way. She'd make great home-style roast and, you know, cast iron pork chops with a nice red gravy and all that good stuff. And holiday meals, Sunday meals, it was an awesome time of my life. But she was my inspiration for cooking, although, like I said before, it was not the intention I went into. That came along as my first job in high school, where they were called Sambos back then, which is definitely politically incorrect these days. They're like a Denny's now, so I went in and started my career as a dishwasher. Didn't really like washing dishes, cleaning up after the drunks during the graveyard shift, and asked if I could cook, and I was told to learn how to cook, so on my own time, so I did that. Anyway, that's a little bit of how I got my start in the business. This was in Western New York, Jamestown, New York, actually. From there, a couple other local restaurants before I finally decided to go to culinary school, which I went to in Boston. I think we're good to go here. So by tempering, we're going to slowly stream this hot cream into this egg mixture so that it does not scramble. If I dump it in all at one time, we're going to end up with a bowl of scrambled eggs. So by the time the cream hits the surface of the eggs from a distance of about 6 to 8 inches, it's going to cool enough, and with a slow drizzle into there, slow stream of the cream, it's going to prevent that from coagulating and scrambling the eggs. And we'll finish the baking process when we put the things together. We'll dump this all over the bread, bananas, and dark chocolate, and then as it's cooking, it will set up and become firm. So that's phase 1. Part 2 of our creme brulee burnt French toast bread pudding is going to be making a white chocolate sauce. I've got 8 ounces of white chocolate chips. This happens to be Ghirardelli brand. Pour it in a bowl. I've brought my, once again, cream up to about 160, 170 degrees. And we're just going to pour that over the chocolate and whisk it in until it's nice and smooth. And that's as easy. That's it for that whole thing. We're just going to let that cool down a little bit. And then we're going to proceed on to phase 3, which is actually assembling the bread pudding. And at that point, when it's put together, pop that in the oven for 20 minutes. And while that's baking, we'll go ahead and proceed onward with our pan-fried chicken and potatoes. So it's just a matter of whisking it until smooth. All right, so I'm going to set this off to the side with our creme brulee batter. Pay a little attention, give it a stir every now and then, just to keep it moving. Okay, now I've cut my challah into roughly 1-inch slices. Like I said, I prefer brioche, but this is what we have. Then I just take a mold that's going to fit the size of my cup. Boom. And like a biscuit cutter, just go ahead and cut out your rounds just the way that you want. I figured 3 to 4 layers will fill this up, so it'll be nice and high and tall. Throw away your scraps or feed them to the birds or your chickens or whatever you got going at home. Set that off to the side, clean it up a little bit. I've taken my fluted baking ramekin. By fluted, it's just an outside design. It's nothing to do with the inside. It's smooth, easy to get in and out. I've buttered it, and I've sprinkled it with sugar to help keep the product from sticking in the bottom. I take one of these nice crusts that I've cut out, or bread medallions, let's call them. Put that in the bottom. I'm going to layer that with sliced bananas, and once again, Ghirardelli dark chocolate. We'll do 3 layers of that. We'll pour the creme brulee batter over it and right into the oven. So I came up with this burnt toast idea when I had my own restaurant in a little town in the South Shore of Mass called Hull, Massachusetts. I had a breakfast place. lunch and dinner. I opened in 2005. Sorry, breakfast and lunch, no dinner. Tried it, didn't work. So one of the signature dishes that we had on the menu was burnt French toast. It was taking Texas toast or brioche. Either one is fine, thick cut. Put it in the same batter, cooked it such as French toast, flipped it, put it on, covered it with sugar, burn it on with a torch, and there it became the burnt part of it became, the play on words, became the burnt toast is caramelized sugar anyways. So just like the crunchy topping that you'll get on your creme brulee dessert is what comes up on that particular dish when I had my own place. So I've taken that, I'm gonna put a little bit of this creme brulee batter, spoon it right into the first layer so it starts to soak in a little bit while I'm assembling the rest of it. Add another layer of the bananas and chocolate. And we'll see how daring we are and how high we decide we want to go with it once we get this next layer on. Probably looks like we can still do the 4 layers, so that'll be nice. More of the batter. One final layer of bananas and chocolate. And if all goes well, this thing will pop right out when it's cooked. And just enough of the creme brulee to soak the bread so that it cooks into it, brings it all together. Add that top layer there. Go ahead and actually dip that into it. Like that. That's all we have for that. So we're going to pop this into the oven about 375 for roughly 25 to 30 minutes. All right, we're back. We're now going to work on the dinner portion of our episode, and then we'll get back to finishing off on the dessert. It's got about 15 minutes left in the oven or so. So we're doing a cast iron pan-fried chicken with pan-fried potatoes, onions, carrots, and mushrooms, with a little bit of pan juice, reduction sauce as well to go over the top. Usually I would use a boneless skin-on chicken breast, but the butcher messed up and no skin, so we're gonna just go skinless. Take it from there. So we're heating our pans, our cast iron pan with a little bit, just about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch of oil in there, just enough to totally cover the bottom of the pan. Once again, when heating your pans up, we're still in that 160 to 350 range. I know it's a much larger range than we talked about before, but cooking temperatures, you want to get it to a minimum of 175 up to 350 degrees. We're seasoning the chicken breast with salt, kosher salt, and cracked black pepper. Put on as much or as little as you want, depending on what you like. If you don't like either one of them, then use whatever seasonings that you feel that you want to use. The oil that I'm using in the pan is a blend of 75% canola oil, 25% olive oil. So we got the pan nice, and check your temperature in your pan. If you take a little splatters of water in there, a couple drops of water, if it splatters and dances, you're ready to go. If it starts to steam or do anything else, you've probably gone too far and you're too hot. Remove it from the heat and give it a chance to cool down. So we're going to lay the fat side down first, which would normally be the skin side, and see if we can get a nice brown color on it. Put them in there, make sure that it moves around a little bit so they're not stuck. Season the other side. We'll keep an eye on it as we go along. And while that's happening, we're going to start the pan-fried potatoes at the same time. So what I've done is I've pre-baked some potatoes. Normally as you would do, so you're going to have a baked potato just already still in the skin. I put them in the fridge to cool down a little bit so that they could, it's along the concept of a hash brown, or home fried. Let it cool, slice them. We're going to layer them in the bottom of the pan. Once again, checking to making sure that the pan's hot enough. Layer the potatoes in the bottom, alternating some of them with some sweet white onion. I normally like to use poblano chili peppers, which gives it a little bit of a spice kick, but again, unavailable product due to supply and demand in the world, I suppose. That rotten COVID is wreaking havoc all over the place. Put a little bit of the julienne onion in there. We want to get a nice crisp on these potatoes, so we're going to up the temp just a little bit on that. Another layer of potatoes. A little more onion. Season, salt and pepper. Potatoes will take a lot of salt, but you don't want to put in so much salt that it totally affects it and makes it salty. But it does, they will suck up a lot, just like a pasta. Or mashed potatoes, when you make them, you always think you're putting in too much salt, so you taste them, you just keep adding a little more till you figure it out. Throw some of these mushrooms right on the top. And we're also going to throw a little bit of these carrots in there. So we're just going to let that sit there and kind of fester a little bit. We get a nice brown color on the potatoes, toss them around lightly. These are cooking nicely. We're going to let those go a little bit and we'll come right back to you. All right, we're back on the final phase of the chicken entree. Pan-fried chicken and pan-fried potatoes. I just removed them from the oven, taking them off. I'm letting it rest for a couple of minutes so that they will cut a little bit easier for me. Potatoes are good to go. We're just gonna, nice flat spatula, just kind of portion them out onto the plate as you see fit, however you like to do it. Nice big mound. It's got some nice flavor to them with the onions and the carrots and mushrooms that I added to it. Now we're going to go ahead and plate our vegetables here. I'll be using my hands, but that's all I've got left. Okay, so we've got some French baby carrots here, different colors, the tricolor version that you can get. You can usually get stuff like that at most any grocery store. Trader Joe's, I believe, is where these have come from. Take our chicken and we're going to slice it on the bias, which means a nice little thin angle. As thin or as thick as you like to do it. Yeah, that looks nice. 3 or 4 nice slices, just so that when you eat it, they're not big, overbearing chunks. Go ahead and plate that on one side of the plate. Kind of fan that out a little bit. All right, we're going to add some cherry tomatoes there to add just a little bit of color to it. We're going to cut those in half again so they don't roll around and fall off the plate. A little easier to consume as well. They hit that fork, they don't just pop off. And they're just on there for a little bit of color, adds a little bit of different texture, a little bit of moisture to the dish itself. Got some of these mushrooms that we have left here, right down the middle, along with these pan juices from the chicken. We'll put a little bit of fresh oregano or marjoram on the top. Once again, you can kind of pull that off as you're eating and mix it throughout, so it disperses on your own little bits of things there. And there we have our pan-fried chicken with roasted potatoes, carrots, onions, and mushrooms. All right, we're back to our final phase on our creme brulee burnt French toast bread pudding. Long name, I know, but it kind of encompasses what it's all about. We finished up our chocolate sauce, so we're going to put a nice base of the chocolate sauce onto the plate. And as it cools, it thickens up just a little bit more, so we're not going to overpower it this time or we'll slip and slide. This is our souffle, or our bread pudding we put in the oven about 30 minutes ago. It came out. We sugared and buttered the inside of the container so that it would pop out. Let's see what happens. We got all our layers in there. We're going to invert it upside down and my goodness, voila. We're going to put that right smack dab in the center. I'm going to cover it with a little bit of granulated sugar. I prefer to use a coarse sanding sugar that like the bakeries use. It gives a little bit of a thicker creme brulee crunch to it. It takes a little longer to burn, but we'll get there. So this is just regular granulated sugar that you can get anywhere. A couple pieces of banana on the top, as that's what we have in the center. You can see the chocolate is cascaded on the sides along with the layers of banana. The nice, soft bread pudding. There's nothing dry in there. Gonna put a little bit more sugar on top of the banana. So now we're going to burn the sugar on the top, which makes it creme brulee meaning burnt sugar, literally. So this is a basic cigar lighter you can pick up at your favorite smoke shop. propane in the bottom, fill it, turn it on, and then just start to melt the sugar and the banana on the top. The banana itself won't melt, but the sugar should get a nice thick crust on it. You can see it's starting to get a little bit of a golden color. And if you don't think you've got enough going, you can always add more sugar to it. It's just gonna make a nice little crispy topping. I'm probably gonna put a little bit more on the banana just to pick up a little more of that color. This is one of these things where, when I'm talking about not being afraid to cook, and this is a quote from Julia Childs, one of my mentors, inspirations, as well as my great Aunt Ruth from way back when. Just learn how to cook. Try new recipes, learn from your mistakes, and above all, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to fail. You know, you're not trying to impress anybody. Get the basics of your cooking down first, then learn to impress. You know, learn some of the basics of cooking and then learn. Don't be afraid. Keep your kitchen area clean and uncluttered. If your area is uncluttered, your mind's not cluttered, you can focus more on to what you're doing, and it makes the whole process a lot easier. Cooking should be fun. Shouldn't be scary. Shouldn't be afraid to do it. Just do it. You know, anybody can read a recipe. You just need to be organized, have some common sense, and not be afraid to fail. I've failed many times over my 45 years, but it always gets better. All right, now to finish the plate, we're just going to garnish it with some fresh fruit. You can use most anything you want. I've decided to go with fresh raspberries today. I think a banana and raspberry combo goes very well, and we all know chocolate and raspberries too as well. You can use fresh strawberries. Mango might be good on that. Put as many or as few on there as you want, just get the look. And a lot of times in the cooking, you know, when you're going to impress, the impressive part is people watching you and knowing what you've done for them and what the end result actually looks like. It's looking good. The flavors are going to be there. You've succeeded already. Alrighty, and that's all I have for today. Thank you very much. I hope to see you in the future. I'd like to thank my employers, Winslow's Range Bar and Kitchen, and we'll take it from there.